Welcome to the Joy Lab podcast, where we help you uncover and foster your most joyful self. Your hosts, Dr. Henry Emmons and Dr. Aimee Prasek, bring you the ideal mix of soulful and scientifically sound tools to spark your joy, even when it feels dark. When you're ready to experiment with more joy, combine this podcast with the full Joy Lab program over at joylab.coach.
Hello, I'm Henry Emmons, and welcome to Joy Lab.
And I'm Aimee Prasek, and we are talking about gratitude. Today, our element of joy for this month. And maybe just to back up for a moment, if you are new here or we didn't explain it well enough before, we focus on one element of joy every month around here at the podcast and at the program. And these elements of joy are not just things Henry and I thought up on a whim.
There would have been good things though if we had done that.
We'll do another podcast.
I'd say we were on a roll.
Yeah, we could have thought of some good ones, but these really are the emotions, the inner states, the skills that are absolutely supported by research, that are powerful contributors to good mental health. So we've got some good foundation for these elements of joy. And I think the thing to note too is that not only are these good for mental health, they won't just help us feel better, but they do go beyond that to help us step into our lives more fully, to tap into our resilience, to feel joy again. And so that's why this month we are focusing on gratitude.
Yeah, and I think of all of our 12 elements, Aimee, this one probably has the most research behind it as a mental health tool. There's just so much that's come out in the last 10 to 20 years about how gratitude helps boost our mood, prevent, further worse problems, gives us a greater sense of well-being, a greater sense of connection with others. I mean, it is really one of those rare skills or tools that we really know that focusing on it is going to be good for us.
Yeah. Yeah, the good and bad of that. We'll get into that. We're told it's going to be good for us. So thank you. Yes. Yeah, the research is there. Like you said, I think we all kind of know this. Walk down a store aisle and you'll see pillows stamped with gratitude and mugs, like it's everywhere. We get that. The thing I do want to say as well, though, and I think I always start our podcast with this. I know we can get some eye rolls when it comes to gratitude, as I just noted, all those pillows and mugs and such. And what do you want to say,
Aimee,
Henry?
I think when you say that, I think you're saying that you have at some time or other given an eye roll.
Oh my God, yeah.
to the very thing you're talking about.
Absolutely. I have not come to these elements of joy willingly. No, I have. Well, it gives a lot of support to why these things work. These are not the practices that I necessarily wanted to engage in, or at least felt like it was worth my time at first. But then I did, and darn it, they work. So here we are.
Reluctant, joyful woman.
Absolutely. I'll tell a story of an eye roll, actually. I remember when I started grad school, I was working full-time, going to school full-time, and the recession was hitting. This was 2007. And one of my side jobs was an in-home personal trainer. And the only folks who could afford in-home personal training at that time were very well off. And I had this really crappy car, which is a whole nother story of how I got the crappy car. I'll tell another day. But it had broken down the day before, so I had to reschedule with this client. When my car got fixed, I was back on the road, was able to get to their house and told them the story. And I was kind of complaining about the car and how much money it cost to fix because I didn't have the money. And I remember my client said to me, "You should be grateful you have a car." No, there's more. My husband had to get rid of his Porsche because of this recession. And I was like, Portia, oh my God, I'm going to try to muster up an appropriate response because you're paying me money and I want to keep this relationship intact. So I was like, oh, that sounds really tough. I'm super sorry. A lot of eye rolls. Turned around, eye roll. Drove home, passed by the 4 other cars in their garage that cost like 5 times my rent, and also eye rolled. So gratitude might give you a bad taste in your mouth. And if that's true, I see you. I get that. But point being, that is not gratitude, what I just explained. And we'll talk about that. So don't let bad takes on gratitude like bum you out or ruin gratitude for you.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue against the idea of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
But when we are told again and again that something is good for us, it can start to feel a little forced or a little bit inauthentic or something.
Right.
It sounds like a parent telling you to eat your vegetables or something. So I think when gratitude gets framed as a moral obligation, you like your client who said you should be grateful that you have this car. I mean, that's kind of implying that you're not being grateful, right? And that doesn't inspire you really to feel more gratitude. So I think we want to try to approach this today and this whole month in a way that avoids those shoulds and the cliches that we're all familiar with. So let's try to look at gratitude from a fresh, realistic, authentic perspective if we can. And I mentioned the science earlier. I think that's a pretty good place to start.
Yeah. The research is robust. I'll just give a sampling right now so we can get a taste of it. People who practice gratitude tend to have stronger relationships, better physical health, less pain, more happiness, quality of life, lower rates of depression. They're more empathetic, less likely to lash out, less reactive. They perform better at work, more productive, more likely to get promoted. Gratitude practices are linked to better sleep, higher resilience, greater self-esteem.
Better sleep. Okay, you caught me there.
Right? Gratitude practices at night. That's a good one for sleep. Reductions in PTSD symptoms. A lot of impact from what really is kind of an accessible practice. So there's also a classic study that I think is helpful to call out too, because we want to talk about gratitude in a realistic, accessible, non-cheesy, not eye roll, no hashtag gratitude stamped on pillows kind of way. It comes from researchers Dr. Robert Emmons and Michael McCullough. And they ran, not you, Henry.
I should point out, it's no relation to me.
That'd be great if that was your brother.
It would be.
Yeah, he's like peak gratitude researcher, Robert Emmons. So in this study, it was kind of 3 sub-studies essentially, but they had participants write about things they were grateful for. They had another group of participants write about the hassles they were experiencing. And then another group was just kind of writing neutral events. And then all the participants, depending on which sub-study they were in, would write either daily or weekly. And here's what they found. Overall, folks who wrote about what they were grateful for reported more optimism, fewer health complaints. They even exercised more, which I think is interesting. And for the participants who did this on a daily basis, they slept better. They felt more connected. They experienced more positive emotions and even had fewer negative moods compared to the other groups. So these studies, whether daily or weekly, so the daily I think was a 2-week study, the weekly, I'll have to check back, several weeks. But essentially these are pretty condensed practices, consistent. They were doing it daily or weekly, but in a short period of time to have these impacts is pretty profound, actually. I think also what these studies highlight is that gratitude is a skill. So it's something that you can consciously practice, even if you aren't feeling grateful, which I'm not shaming you. That's like exactly why I started gratitude practices, because I thought it was BS and I wasn't feeling grateful. So it could still work, right? You can find something, a cloud, a blooming flower, a snowflake, whatever it might be. And when you do that in a consistent way and in a way that doesn't really have to take any extra time, you can actually start to feel better.
This is sounding like mental flossing to me, like
Oh my
something
gosh,
that
yes.
you do every day, just a little bit.
Yeah. Even
It
if
takes a couple minutes.
you don't like it.
And it does really good things for you.
Yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely. It's hygiene.
It's mental and emotional hygiene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too that what you're describing, Aimee, just shows that gratitude is more than just a nice flowery idea. It's got some power behind it.
Yeah.
And as the other Dr. Emmons points out, gratitude is not just a virtue, it's an emotion. I like that, thinking of it as an emotion. It's just one of the really positive, most beneficial emotions that any of us can experience. And I think what the research is saying too, that it often sparks action on the part of the person doing it. So that when you feel grateful, for example, you're more likely to pay it forward and do something nice or kind to someone else. So the research on emotional well-being has just shown us again and again that doing good things for others is simply one of the best things we can do for our own mental health. We're just wired for it. Just like we're wired for touch or for appreciating beauty and savoring things, which are other things we will talk about at another time. I think we get a big dopamine hit when we do something good for others, or when we enjoy a feeling of gratitude within ourselves. And also, I think that both gratitude and altruism, which kind of stems from gratitude, make us healthier, in part because they remove us from this constant unhealthy focus on ourselves.
Yeah. I think when I was talking about my distaste for gratitude, how I did not come to it willingly, I think that's such a good point, because not my point, but what you just said, Henry.
Well, your point was good.
Yeah,
too.
my point's good too. But it wasn't that I wasn't wired for this stuff, that it wasn't part of me. It was that I couldn't at that point access it or tap into it. And I think hyperfocus is a really important thing to recognize that gratitude can help us get out of. I think we can all agree like that hyperfocus that we can get into isn't like, we're hyper-focused on our self-care and self-love and nourishment. It's like usually a self-critical, negative kind of hyper-focus.
True.
Which blocks gratitude, right? So it's then hard to sort of see it and want it and recognize it as being helpful when it's just hard to tap into. But the point here, again, as we're kind of making, is that it's really easy to tap into. And even if you don't really think it's legit, it's going to give you some good outcomes. And then as you continue to practice it, it starts to open up something that's much deeper than just kind of the maybe transactional notion of gratitude that we might see more often around us. So let's get into that a little bit more, like into the definition of gratitude. So Dr. Emmons, Robert Emmons, not Henry, talks about, to clarify this all the time, talks about two aspects of gratitude. The first is conditional gratitude, so noticing the good things you've received. And then the second one, this is, I feel like, the most important part, relational gratitude, which is recognizing the role of others in bringing that goodness into your life. So we're going to get into the relational aspect of gratitude a lot this month. It's a lot of the work we'll do in the program as well, here at the podcast as well. I do want to touch on it, though, right here as well, because it's so important. Again, most of us can get like the conditional aspect of gratitude. I am thankful for this stuff. So that stuff, though, didn't just magically appear. It wasn't just bestowed upon you because you are more worthy. Like, all that we have now is part of a long chain of folks or creatures who have helped or even have been harmed for us to have this stuff. And until we have awareness of that, then we cut ourselves off from the world. I think that's really interesting to start to really dig into. I'll give a tangible example. I got an avocado at the store yesterday. I am grateful for it. Now, how did it come to be? I know I didn't grow it because I'm in Minnesota and we can't grow avocados. So it's not just like a creation of my own being. So someone else grew this, tended to this, picked that fruit, sorted it. It was watered when it was growing. The rains nourished it too. The sun, bees pollinated the flowers. The tree was on someone's land. That land was somebody's before. Who tended to that soil centuries ago? And it doesn't even matter if you think this is stupid to go through this kind of process with an avocado. The actual point is to be able to think through the process of giving, of contributing. And it's brain training. It's really brain training. If you don't like the emotional or sort of spiritual aspect of connecting with an avocado, just understand that you are strengthening your critical thinking skills by interpreting, by identifying the many variables that go into the creation of something, of everything. And if you can't do that, then you, and you alone, here's where it gets sticky, become the sole focus of everything. Try to get that avocado on your own, Minnesota folks. That's too much weight to hold. So sure, you can give yourself all the praise and the awards when stuff is going well, all the gratitude to yourself. But when it's a dumpster fire, when life gets hard, and it will, you'll need to take the full blame too, because you've cut yourself off. If you can't see any of those connections and acknowledge them. So, it just leaves us in a place where we can't see how anyone else has contributed to our successes or our failures, and so we are alone. I've been there. I've fallen for that lie. We are trained to do this oftentimes, that we're all in it for ourselves, that kind of BS. So I think gratitude is this basic understanding that you are not alone. You just aren't. Even if you go off grid and live like a hermit, you're still part of something bigger, and that impacts you with or without your awareness or conscious participation. And I think that when we can tap into that, when we can realize we are part of so many pieces working together, and when we can practice the skill of gratitude to see who and what contributes to our nourishment and our successes and our failures, or when we fall down, then we're able to be supported when we are knocked down and life gets way, way easier.
Yeah, I love how that connects things to a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because, I think it's one thing to practice gratitude for these momentary things, which is good and, helpful. But I think you're pointing to living with gratefulness, which is a much broader thing. It makes it more a way of life rather than just a momentary practice. So there's a book that's really worth mentioning. It's a book by Christy Nelson called Wake Up Grateful. And in it, she talks about these 5 guiding principles for living gratefully, which is kind of what we're getting into now. So let's just talk I just want to highlight these 5 things very briefly. First, life is a gift. Even in difficult times, the simple fact of being alive is reason enough to find some gratitude. As Jon Kabat-Zinn has said, the person who largely responsible for bringing mindfulness into American healthcare, he said, as long as you are breathing, there is more right with you than wrong with you. It's that shift in focus. So first, life is a gift, life itself. Second thing, everything is a surprise. I like this. Gratitude comes alive when we approach life with curiosity and wonder. Third, the ordinary is extraordinary. And I like this too, because we so often take the ordinary things for granted, like having clean water coming out of our tap, having friends to hang out with, or just being able to take the breath that we're taking right now. These are miracles happening moment to moment when we pause to really notice them. And then we've alluded to this fourth one, which is that appreciation is generative, meaning that when we pay attention to what we value, it gets bigger. Appreciation is not a passive thing. It's an active way of engaging with life and kind of spreading it, paying it forward to others. And then finally, love is transformative. Gratitude just naturally leads us toward love, and that changes everything.
Does sound sweet and wonderful. I do love those.
It does. It does, doesn't it?
Which makes me think of something that bothers me that I want to bring up. I love that. I just raising up all my issues here. That book is wonderful. Thank you for calling out, and I'll put it in the show notes too. I want to bring up, just for a moment before we kind of wrap here, something that I think gratitude gets tied up with toxic positivity a bit. We noted this earlier with the shoulds that can happen. I just want to we'll just keep our antenna up for just a moment to see when there might be instances when we're letting gratitude gloss over pain, because I think that's kind of a common hiccup. So I remember, as an example, I got a lot of this after my dad died. So I was 17 when he died. And I think a lot of kids who have had a parent die younger get this too. So I can't count how many people told me this. I should be grateful for the 17 years I got with my dad. I know it's another should there, but there's more there. It was dismissing the grief. I think it's just really important to keep our antenna up so that it's not something that we're falling into. For example, when I see grandparents super involved in their grandkids' lives, yes, I'm happy for that kid and those grandparents, but my daughter doesn't have that, and I think that sucks. So is there anything I can do about it? No. Does it make me sad when I see stuff that I wish my dad could have been part of in my life? Yes. And that's okay. Like, that feeling is okay. That grief is natural, and it does not have to be dismissed through gratitude. And at the same time, gratitude and grief can come together. Gratitude and loss can come together. Gratitude and pain. So I think sometimes we teach, or we see these as mutually exclusive, that I'm going to use gratitude to get rid of the grief, and it just doesn't work like that. So, and we're actually going to talk, I think, more about gratitude and grief later on, like early next year. We'll get into that. But I think it's just so important that these things are not mutually exclusive. They exist together, and that together, they're actually pretty powerful.
Yeah, I love that, Aimee. I think what you're saying about how they can fit together is just really, really important. But I do also want to really highlight that, yeah, we don't need to use these elements of joy, any of them, to cover up our real pain.
Yes.
You know, that's not what they're about. And, you know, as people know who've listened to us, we are not about toxic positivity or just simply denial of, you know, the hard stuff, the painful stuff in life. And I think if we can do what you're pointing to, where we can, in one hand, we can hold the real sense of pain and loss that every one of us experiences at some time in our lives. And in the other hand, hold the sense of gratitude, if that's possible, or acceptance if we're not quite there yet, but just be able to hold a balanced standpoint or approach to these really challenging things in life, that is authentic. That's hard-won, genuine gratitude when you get to that.
Yeah, holding them together. I think the perfect other title for this podcast would be Sorrow Lab. Because like you said, probably folks who stumble upon Joy Lab are like, this is kind of depressing at times.
We should try it for a while, Aimee, just see what happens.
I mean, I love that because, these things it's just life. And to not dismiss them and not gloss over them and not use joy to cover sorrow, not use gratitude to smother grief. Like, nope. It's all here for us. So that's the heart of it. I think gratitude doesn't erase life's difficulties, but it gives us a way to live more fully with all of it, like the joy, the sorrow, the loss, and the love. That's why we're here. Even when you have to give up your Porsche, you can hold joy and sorrow then too. Sorry, I'm still like a little irritated by that comment. Clearly, we're still all works in progress. So gratitude, like ourselves, it's messy. We're human. It's sometimes uncomfortable. I think it's always worth it. And that's why it's one of our elements of joy. It is so important that we're working on this together too. Collectively, gratitude, it changes society. It is a rapid transformation tool for a more healthy community. So let's all come together and work on gratitude. To close us, I want to share some wisdom from Faith Baldwin. Here it is. Gratitude is a many-colored quality, reaching in all directions. It goes out for small things and for large.
Thank you for listening to the Joy Lab podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, visit joylab.coach to learn more about the full Joy Lab program. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Please remember that this content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice and is not a replacement for advice and treatment from a medical professional. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professional before beginning any diet change, supplement, or lifestyle program. Please see our terms for more information.